If you've been sitting on the fence about moving, this is your sign right now to make the move.
I'm Kai.
I'm Koyo.
And you're watching
Life with the Lyles.
We moved out of the US the day after Election Day in 2024, and it was the best decision we've ever made.
We decided to move to Tangier, Morocco, which is in northern Africa. We stayed there initially for 2 months to do a little bit of house hunting and really just get a lay of the land to see what it would potentially be like to move there for long term. And we kind of used it as a test to say, hey, we liked it after 2 months. That's a pretty good indicator that we're gonna like it for more of a long term. And needless to say, it was the highlight of a lifetime. So in today's video, we want to talk directly to our community. We want to talk to Black Americans about moving out of the US.
We want to preface this video by saying that we recognize that it is a privilege to be able to move out of the country, let alone out of the city that you grew up in. We recognize that there are different factors that contribute to somebody's ability to be able to move abroad, whether it be financial difficulties, being a caretaker, not being able to have a job where you can work remotely, different things like that. So to those that are able to do so, think about moving out of the US.
We want to give encouragement to you that if you can or have the ability of moving outside the country, to really take that option seriously and really consider doing it. There's a lot of fear that we have for relative unknown, and it really creates a prison for us.
When we moved to Morocco, the initial feeling that we had was a feeling of liberation as well as feeling stress-free. We were still working. We were still, looking for housing. So these things were stressful in essence, but it wasn't the same type of anxiety that you feel with living in the US. And that was something that mattered a lot to me, especially as a Black woman who is pregnant and wants to be able to have a healthy and a blissful pregnancy, to be able to have very little stress and not feel such an anxiety about race or even financial predicaments, because the dollar went a lot further. There were just so many different things that contributed to us feeling a lot less anxious than we do in the States.
One thing that we noticed, that priorities differ, especially in other countries and especially in Morocco where we were at. There's a high priority on our family, enjoying life, being around other people. And as opposed to in America, we place such a high priority on the almighty dollar. Capitalism has the major hold over our nation, and with that, and making money the most important thing, a lot of other things suffer, including, like I said, not only the family, but you notice just the rise in mental health problems and the rise in just stress.
With moving out of the US, there is opportunity for new relationships, newfound inspiration, and even opportunities that you may not have had access to while in the US. That was something that we noticed when we had moved to Morocco. We came across so many different people that we would definitely call family friends now, people that we were able to rely on, and building a sense of community that we wouldn't have otherwise had we stayed in the US.
Not only that, you really get to experience all those new things, but you're also learning more about yourself and what you really value outside of kind of the rut that we live in, to where we're almost living on autopilot.
We want to encourage you all to go where you are appreciated and accepted. There are hundreds of countries in this world, and so we don't want you to feel limited to just staying in the US. The US is not all that there is. There are so many other places that will embrace you as a person, despite skin color, despite class, despite all these different things. And so find that place. You're not limited to just Europe. There's Africa, there's Asia, there's so many different places for you to try out and to figure out where your home is.
For the most part, what I really recognized about living in Morocco is how divided we are in the US. We're divided by religion, skin color, and so many other things that we're always looking to get into smaller and smaller groups. It just felt so freeing to go somewhere to where unity and working together and laughing together and spending deliberate time with each other is a priority.
There is a preconceived notion that you need to be wealthy in order to move abroad, but we want to assure you that that is not the case. We are far from wealthy, at least for now. We're not in a certain tax bracket. We're not making millions of dollars per year. We are about to have our first baby, and so that's like an added expense per se, right? With that, we're still able to move abroad. I do believe that, it does take research, it does take budgeting and saving, but there is really no dollar amount to be able to move abroad. It's kind of just something that you place your plans into and take a leap of faith.
Depending on where you move, it actually can be a step up in the quality of life. The dollar can just go so much further depending on where you live.
Another thing that we want to highlight is that we both work remotely, so that is another factor that contributed to us being able to move out of the US. So if you are able to find a remote job where you can work outside of the 50 states, take those opportunities. I know that they will be dwindling over the next coming months and years, but if you can find that opportunity to work abroad, do it.
And also, if you're retired and living on a fixed income, that's also a great position to be able to do that.
We want to highlight just a few reasons why Black Americans should move out of the US.
One of those is no big surprise, but just the state of our country. Not even recently, but really for as long as we can remember. And we've been told that this is as good as it gets and that we don't have another place to go, but that couldn't be further from the truth.
There is so much more to see beyond the US. Again, like you said, this is not as good as it gets. I know the US does a good PR job of making us think that this is the best country in the world and we have all the things that you could ever need. Why go anywhere else? But that's not the case. I think we can both attest to the fact that the quality of life is not that great, especially for Black Americans.
And not only that, it's just how peaceful other countries are. And we don't realize how violent it is living here, and that at any moment that our lives can be a danger. And sometimes we're used to that feeling. But I remember on New Year's Day, me and Kai talking about the 2 terrorist attacks that happened, and couldn't imagine something like that happen, especially where we were at. It really didn't make sense looking at it from an outside perspective.
Getting out of the US, it lessens the hyper awareness that you have to have of your surroundings, or the hyper awareness of your race and all these different things.
Of strangers.
Yeah. So the state of the US is not that great.
Another reason is the quality of life. It is not only the creature comforts that we're used to here in the US is the same creature comforts that you have living abroad, even more. The quality of the food that we eat.
Oh my goodness, that alone.
The quality of the environment that we live in, the quality of the time that we get to spend with our family, the time that we get to spend with ourselves and learning more about ourselves.
The quality of life in the US is so poor that it kind of forces you to have coping mechanisms or addictions, like overeating, overworking. There's so many different things, and we found that that's not necessarily the case in all these other countries, where they value balance, they value healthy well-being, different things that are just so ingrained into their culture to where people don't necessarily have the same addictions, because these addictions are monetized off of here, because capitalism is a thing. With that, the quality of life is so much better in so many other places. That is for you to determine. We want to just encourage Black Americans to consider moving abroad. Keep in mind that this does not have to be a permanent thing. You don't have to move away forever. It could be for a year, for 5 years, a decade, whatever you want it to be, but we just want you to at least do it once. It may be the thing that changes the trajectory of your life.
If you've been sitting on the fence about moving, this is your sign right now to make the move.
And that concludes this week's episode. Make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and don't forget to drop a comment below.
What do you feel like you have the most to lose by moving abroad?
We'll see y'all next Monday.
Peace.